So you can text me directly too. Okay, so the only direction is North Antarctica through maps. And you're going to set up your science notebook for this activity. So my dates are a little different than Bill's. You can do it however you've started it. The only direction is North Antarctica through maps, and Louise Huffman as the presenter. So we can learn an awful lot about a place even without knowing anything, just by looking at a map. And you've got a really cool map here. So I'm going to give you a question to start with, just to get you to look at the map. So if you'd open up your map, a couple of cool things about it if you haven't looked at it yet. This Polar Geospatial Center did this map, and this was a really nice one. It's a few years old now, but they don't make these very often. The back side has a lot of information too, just about Antarctic science and the U.S. Antarctic program. So we've got our wingless fly on there, or the Antarctic midge. But we're going to focus on the map itself today. So what I'd like you to do is take a look at that and see if, write the question I have on the screen: what is the largest ice shelf in Antarctica? And then I want you to use your Zoom annotate text tool and write your answer right here on my page. But what's the largest ice shelf in Antarctica? So you're going to want to find where the ice shelves are, see if you can figure out which one's the largest, and we'll see if we have consensus.
Louise, can I just say, do you mean like east or west, like different components? That's what you're asking?
No,
okay. Antarctica, you just like specific?
So Antarctica, you're going to look at the entire map and try to find where ice shelves are. You can see the names of ice shelves. So you're going to have to really look at that to find out where those ice shelves are located. But it could be any place on Antarctica.
Oh, I see. I see. Like raw ice shelf. It is written here. Okay.
Yeah, so you'll find them labeled. Okay, and then you're going to want to use your annotate tool and put up what you found. Okay, get a few more answers up and then we'll go on. Okay, so we've got a lot of different answers up here. If I'm not sure you can see them because they're awfully small on your screen, but Ross comes in, looks like with the largest number, but we have a couple people who've said the Ronnie ice shelf too, and a couple people that question Ronnie or Ross ice shelf, and then one Reiser Larson ice shelf. So if your students had didn't agree, I mean, we have a little bit of consensus here, but if they didn't agree, is there a way you could figure it out? How would you have your students come up with an answer to this one? Because unless they're the same size, there is one that's bigger than the other.
And they measure it, like they
Okay.
try to measure it on the map, like
Okay.
to the length, to the approximate width,
Okay.
and then find the surface area.
Sure. That'd be one way. Is there any other way?
Mine would ask if they could Google it.
So they they might be Googling it while we're sitting here working on it.
Well, instead of measuring it, couldn't they use coordinates? You know, and
Use
kind of
coordinates.
Yeah,
add it to measurement.
Okay, so they could use the coordinates.
right.
So there's several different ways that we could do that. What I'm going to ask you to do now, let me go to the next slide and clear. Sorry. Okay. So you're gonna, in the next step of this activity, you're gonna look at that map really carefully. There's a lot of really neat information on it. So you're gonna be taking a look at it really closely. What I'd like you to do individually now is write 3 good questions that can be answered with the information on the map. But I wanna ask you before you start, what defines a good question? How could we define that?
I guess the first question is, do you want it to be open-ended or do you want it to be a closed question?
Okay, and I would think that I would take either of those. What else?
Whether the question is relevant to what the purpose of the lesson plan is that day.
Okay, so you may have a very specific goal that you're trying to get your group to get to with this information. If it's just to understand that Antarctica is a continent and there's all kinds of stuff going on there that you can see on the map, you know, you define that. I'm going to define this for you as being, I just really want you to take a close look at Antarctica and the features that you see in Antarctica. So what, anything else? There was one thing that Bill actually said in his presentation about a question that he talked about it in terms of an investigable question. What was that piece? Because that's one that I would want in our definition of a good question.
So go beyond like a yes or a no answer.
Yeah, so that would be the other thing I would add in there. So what I want you to do in your notebook right now is just really take a good look. We'll take a few minutes. When you're done, just give me a thumbs up on your reaction button on your controls down at or a thumbs up on the screen so I know when you're done. Any questions? Okay, go ahead and take a few minutes to come up with 3 good questions. Okay, maybe in the next minute or two, see if you can finish up your questions in your notebook. I got a thumbs up from a couple of people. If you're done, maybe you can show me that you're ready. Okay, is there anybody that doesn't have at least 2 questions? Okay, let's go on then. In the chat box, I have a link. We're going to be using what's called Google Editable Slides. This is a tool that is pretty cool for working with students and getting them to be able to to work together in groups, but also to be able to edit right on slides that you give them. So what I'd like you to do, and we haven't done this before, but you have opened a browser window, some of you. If you could open a browser window and go to that link, you can copy the link right out of the chat box, or you can click on it in the present and your agenda. That's going to take you to the slides.
Yes.
Don't do anything on the slides yet, but just have that open and ready to go. Is everybody with me? Okay, so you're going to be put into a Zoom room with some of your colleagues here. And what I'll do in a minute is I'll say, oh, I'll open all rooms on my control panel here, and I've assigned you to a room. There's 3 to 4 people in a room. And together you're going to discuss the map and the questions in your notebooks. You know, just kind of talk about this. You're going to have a little bit of time to do this. So spend a little bit of time really looking at the map together. If you were at School of Ice sorry, I'm getting an echo here. If you were at School of Ice in person, we would have you in groups with a chart on the wall, and you'd be looking at this for 20 minutes or so. What I'd like you to do is just really notice, what do you notice about Antarctica? I want you to choose your one best question and share it on your Zoom room slide. And I'm going to show you that in a second. And you're going to choose one person in your group to type it. Don't answer it. Just type the best question your group came up with for the maps. And the best question might also be, what's something really important you think everybody should know about Antarctica? Which, maybe what makes people think. They have to look at the map and figure something out. You do the best you can on that. Your groups are these. Room 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're going to find your number. And, okay. Now, what I want to do now, though, is I'm going to actually escape from this so you can see what the actual presentation is going to look like and how to go back and forth in it. This was the slide I was just on, so all the directions are in here. If you forget what you're supposed to do, you can go to any of those slides. If you're in group 1, you're going to be in room 1. If you're in 2, you're going to go to this slide, room 3, this slide, room 4, this slide. So you're writing one question and just on your chart. Any questions about that? Does that make sense? Okay, you're not going to answer it. When you're done with that, though, you're going to have 10 minutes all together to talk about the map, share your questions that you wrote in your notebook, pick the best one, write it on this slide. At 10 minutes, I'm going to give you a warning at 9 to come back. The room will close at 10 and you'll come back. Now, I'm not positive, but I think you can actually bring yourself back to the room. I think you can. I'm the only one that can assign it, unfortunately. That's one drawback I found to Zoom, is that only the host can assign those rooms. So when you're presenting and you're having to assign it and run the computer, it gets a little hairy. But I've got y'all set. We're gonna cross fingers it works. If you have a question before you go, let me know. I'm gonna pop into each of your rooms and I will say, you'll hear, I heard the other day from one of our scientists that it doesn't make a tone when I come in as the host, but I don't want to sneak in on you. I want you to know I'm there. So I'll say, hi, it's Louise. Got any questions? You'll see my picture, I think, come up, and you'll see each other's pictures. So we're going to try this out. I'm not an expert at Zoom rooms. I've been in one meeting where they were just a train wreck. And I've been in another one where they went really well. So I'm trying to be a risk taker here, crossing my fingers that this is going to work.
Hi,
Louise,
can you repeat?
I'm sorry, Louise, it should give, when you join as a host, when you pop into one of the break rooms, it should show a little message to the rest of us that Louise has joined the conversation or the room.
Okay.
Other thing to note, if people haven't used it, is if you accidentally get bumped off, find the Zoom link back again to join in, because I've had a bunch of students think that that was the end of class and they've left.
Oh,
So,
So I didn't catch how we join our room. Sorry, I missed that.
Okay, let me go back. Oh, in the chat box, there is a link to this Google set of slides.
I got that.
Okay, I'm going to send you to your room. So
Yes.
I just want to
Oh,
make sure there weren't any questions as a whole group. Are you all set?
We open the
You're breaking up and I can't understand.
three persons in case I am assigned room.
Rose, I'm afraid I didn't understand anything you said. It sounds like the bandwidth is giving you problems. You can put
Can
it
you
in.
hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so I have the presentation. I am on room 3, the chat room 3, but I can't write anything. It doesn't allow me to write anything.
Okay, did you open the Google Slides on your computer from the chat room link?
Yes, it is open. In fact, it has a share button in here, but it doesn't, I can't like edit anything. Should
Okay,
we push edit button?
when you open it up and you go to your slide, you should be able to click on it and write. Maybe talk to your people that are with you in the room, and I'll pop in a minute and maybe we can figure out if you're having trouble at that point. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm gonna write as a note. Okay.
I'm going to send you to your rooms now. I think you get an invitation and then you accept it. Okay, now how do I go to the room?
You're braver than I am, Louise.
Okay, I think I've got this. We'll find out. But, this is a big part of the learning curve here too, I think, the technology pieces. I'll be back.
Okay.
Hi, room 1. Hi, I jumped in. Can you see me too? Okay, I'm not hearing any of you. Can you say something? I can't hear, but can you all hear each other?
We're good? Okay.
Okay, I can hear you now. Good. So do you guys get it? You've got the slides open and you set to go?
Does everyone have the slides?
I did.
Okay.
I hate to say it, but see if I can find it again.
Well, what I can do is
All right, I got the slides. I have the
Yeah.
slides.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna leave you and I hope it goes well.
Okay. So I think we're supposed to write. This meeting is being recorded.
We had the same problem. All we had to do is refresh our presentation because she switched the settings.
So I'm having. Oops. Lauren, can you mute the host computer? I don't think you can.
It's done.
It's muted.
Okay.
Do you wanted it muted, not unmuted?
I just don't want that feedback. So I think the host computer is the one that was giving the feedback. So, okay. So you should have all the slides now, and we'll get everybody coming back here in a second. So it looks like 1, 2, and 4 have it. And it looks like, are you all from 1, 2, and 4?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll see what happened to 3.
We couldn't edit it.
You can now, so you can go ahead and do it now. It was a problem with me.
Carol,
Sure.
can you try? If you can't do it, I'll try.
Yeah, I haven't been able to do it yet. I just saw something that says you need to be logged into a Google account. So
Hold on. So let's repeat our question here.
So if you want to give me the question, I can type it on here. What was the question?
We have actually 2 questions, right? The team. One question was, what are the percentage of Antarctica is the ice shelf? Or what percentage of Antarctica is the ice shelves? And then we had like another question, and is that overall area we decided, or the regions have the mountain ranges, the mountains? Carol, did we decide on that one?
for the mountain ranges, we didn't. We can just leave that one question, I guess. Since we're supposed to do one.
Yeah, okay.
So the next thing that we're going to do then is just take a minute. If we were in the classroom and I had charts up on the wall, I would do what's called a carousel, where one group goes to, you just move around the room in clockwise motion for a certain amount of time, like 1 minute on each chart, you write an answer. You've all been studying the maps, so you should be able to answer them pretty quickly. So we would go around and answer it, and what I had thought was that even if we were in person, giving each group a different color marker, and we could with our students on here have them type it in different colored font. Not going to do that right now, but let's just as a group look at these questions instead of having you go around to each one. So how can you tell which direction you are going? Oh, that's a great question. So look at the map and see what you can come up with, and let's open up your microphones and just share. That seems like such a simple question.
The compass doesn't work there? Is there a simple compass doesn't work?
A simple what?
Compass.
Crest?
Like a,
Good crest.
yeah.
It's, tell you what, I'll tell you a story when we're done. See what other questions you can come up with. I mean, that's a good question. Can't you just use a compass? But what about with the
How
map?
about GPS?
Yeah.
Well, using
Okay.
map, that's a great question to get them to start thinking about latitude and longitude, which really helps them find all sorts of stuff later on, probably in your lesson. So it's a great place to start.
That's a great idea.
We
So-
really like this question because when we're looking at the map, you realize that it's not often that you see Antarctica from this vantage.
Yeah.
It's I mean, really think about, other than Google Earth, you really, even on a globe, a real globe in the classroom, you don't get this kind of vantage. And so I think having the students start to consider the map view,
Yeah.
and then kind of making that connection with a globe.
Yeah, instead of just the white squiggly line at the bottom of the map. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was kind of why we wrote the question. And well, it was Dominic's question. So that we all agreed that it was a really, really wonderful question, and it got them thinking about things in a different way, and just in a different manner than most maps would.
Yeah. So imagine that you can't use GPS and you can't use a compass.
All right, I would think that you can use, if you know what the season is that you're there, because obviously you can't do this at night, you could use your watch and the position of the sun. That would at least give you one direction.
Your watch and the position of the sun?
Right.
Tom, explain that to me on my
In other
watch.
words, once as you're moving, let's say 2 p.m., you should have the sun should be in the west, towards the west.
Okay.
Of course, if you're at the absolute North Pole, South Pole, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But no, it should tell you what direction it is, which way is east and west. I would think, at least based on that.
Okay. I've got a couple of stories I need to tell you. Go ahead. What are some other things?
And the wind, I think the wind direction, if you are going there and you know which way the wind is when you leave, or as long as it doesn't change, of course, you never know. But wind direction sometimes give you the sense of you are going against your camp or you're going towards it.
Okay.
I just had a comment about that. The sun and the clock idea is that there's hardly any difference in elevation. I mean, during the December solstice, that the sun will be up the whole time, and there's very little difference in elevation from noon to what normally would be sunset. So I don't know if that would work very well. I don't know.
What happens when the sun?
Yeah, I was also thinking of that. The sun angle in the South Pole, like we have 6 months of daylight and 6 months of nighttime. So during summer, will it help with the angle change?
Those are really good questions. I did not have any clue what it would be like when I got there, but
Wouldn't it be the summer, be the winter, because it's in the southern hemisphere?
Yeah, December is the summer. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, but yeah, Dominic mentioned that if it is summer and we are there, so winter we cannot go. So, but even in summer, since we have 6 months of continuous day, summer continuous daylight, nights are longer, and the sun falls at an angle in South Pole. So will that watch thing work? That's what I'm asking. But it's a very interesting point that has been raised.
As long as the sun's out.
say again?
As long as the sun is out. The sun is not out, then it's not going to work at all.
But even the sun is out for 20 hours and we have a constant ray of sun.
So let me tell you 2 stories just from my experience of being in the dry valleys. The dry valleys is about as far away from any place you can get. It's a 45-minute helicopter from McMurdo Station. So you're in the middle of nowhere by yourself. And nobody on my team had ever been there before. So we were bumbled around a little bit. One thing you should know is that there's one sunrise and one sunset every year at the North Pole and at the South Pole. One. It comes up and it goes down, and that's it. You got 6 months of light and 6 months of darkness. Now, as you get farther away from the South Pole and out to where McMurdo Station is, did you find McMurdo on the map?
Yeah.
If you look at Ross Ice Shelf, McMurdo is down kind of in the right-hand bottom of the Ross Ice Shelf. But
we are next to New Zealand.
yes, New Zealand, if you drew a straight line out, would go out to New Zealand, which is why we fly to New Zealand and then into McMurdo and McMurdo to South Pole. If you're going to Palmer Station, which is up on, like if you make your left hand into Antarctica, the thumb would be the peninsula. You've got Antarctica, and the Transantarctic Mountains are your fingers here. Here's Ross across from New Zealand. Here's Palmer up here, and that's across from South Pole. I'm sorry, South America. South Pole is about right here. It's like past the Transantarctic Mountains. So you have a map on your hand, which is kind of cool. But when we were out there, the sun never set. It was 24 hours of daylight. When we first got there, it was in late November, and the sun was low on the horizon, but it rotated around like this, and slowly it was up high, and slowly during the season, it began to come down low because we left right at the beginning of March. And when March was there, your shadows were getting really long, and that sun was just rotating around. And I didn't want to be there when it set, to be really honest. But you couldn't, I woke up one night, well, not one night, I had gone to bed. I heard the rest of our team come in. They went to their tents. I woke up and I went, oh my gosh, I think we overslept. And I went and got my partner up and said, Jenny, come on, we're really late. It's 1 o'clock. We're supposed to be out and about, and we haven't, we really slept in. And so we went up and we drank a pot of coffee and everything. And all of a sudden we couldn't figure out why nobody was around. We called McMurdo to see what was going on, why a helicopter hadn't come in, and nobody answered the phone to McMurdo. And we're going, what is going on? It was 1 o'clock in the morning. And I had just gone to sleep. And now I've had a whole pot of coffee. I'm ready for the day. But I learned after that if the sun was over there, it was morning. If it was over there, it was night. And that was the only way we had to tell. But for direction on a map, we would take a map, hike out into the dry valleys, and we'd be looking at it and be totally confused because we'd be going, wait a minute, that land feature, and there weren't very many, but that land feature should be back there. And then we'd realize that this map was actually based on the magnetic North Pole, which was the opposite direction, and some of our maps were based on the geologic South Pole. So it is really confusing. You had to kind of learn where things were and remember where home was so you didn't get lost out in the middle of nowhere. So that's a really hard question to answer. Your watch isn't going to work. If you're talking about GPS or satellites, you don't have any. You have no internet connection down there except from the base or from a tower where they send it out to we had it in our hut because they had a radio tower that allowed us to get it in our hut. So yeah, it's a great question because it's a very difficult one. Okay.
Wow. People actually go around by tidying up the rope around them, their waste, so that they can get back to the same location or restroom or get water or something.
I didn't quite get all of that.
I was asking, is it true that there are a number of times the people actually put ropes around them so they can come back to the camp?
Oh yeah, if you're in a whiteout situation, we flag everything. Dry valleys, no, because there hasn't been snow there in 15 million years, so we didn't have that problem. But when you're on the ice shelf or the ice sheet, you can get into a whiteout situation, and anybody in a field camp on the ice shelf or on the ice sheet will set out flags close together from tents to the latrine and from tents to the mess tent or whatever, wherever you have to go. So when I was at Happy Camper School, we had a whiteout condition, and luckily we had flagged it to the latrine, because if you have to get up, you've got to go from flag to flag because you can't see anything. If somebody gets lost, yes, you tie yourself to a rope and you go out and look for them, and there's stories about that too. But yes, that is true. So let's go to the next question real quick. Find a dome, a mountain range, and an ice shelf. If they aren't labeled, how would you find them? I think what I'm going to do, just to honor our time here, I think what I'm going to do is not go through all the questions with my class. I would have them go in and answer them all. You guys did a great job on the questions. I'll just read them so that you put them up here so you can read them. This was one that I just read. The next room had this one. And then this one. And this is really a great question for this workshop too. One of the things that I wanted you to focus on were the domes, because the domes on this map are where many of the ice cores have been drilled. So you might want to, I don't want to spend time answering the question, but those are some things to think about as the scientists are talking, and getting more information starting tomorrow. And we will leave it at that. If you're interested, this obviously I gave you the link to this presentation. There is one slide at the end that's kind of cool. I'll just point out to you. We're not going to do it today because I have one other thing for sure I want to be able to share with you. But these are actually editable. So you can have your students pick a Post-it and type their response on it and gather responses this way. Have them write their initials, and I was just going to say write the most important thing you noticed about the map of Antarctica, but I think you get the idea here. Any questions about this activity or comment on how you might use it? I saw a thumbs up. That's good. I like the thumbs up. Great. Okay. So Bill, I think you're going to give them some directions for tomorrow. And let me just, at the end, I have a 4-minute, 41-second piece of chasing ice. It's the most exciting part of chasing ice. So we're going to try to end right at 6:30, like we said. Well, 6:30, 30. But we're going to be very close to that. And if you want to stay, I'll run that at the end. If you don't want to see it, the link is on your agenda, or will be on your agenda soon. Okay, Bill, it's all yours.
So I have a couple things to share with you. One is called a summarizer. So let me get my summarizer up. And we're going to try and do a summarizer each of these first few days. In your notebooks, if you could turn to a new page. And on the right-hand side, if you can write summarizer, and you can build all your summarizers maybe on the same page. We can come back to the same page tomorrow, on the same page again on Tuesday. And today's summarizer is just called a Sunday Aha. And I'm just going to describe what an aha is. So it's really just refers to that aha moment that maybe you had today. I don't know about you, but often my ahas hit in the middle of the night. And I actually end up walking into the kitchen to write things down because I know I'm going to forget them by morning. I used to carry a pad of paper in the car when I used to drive in traffic every day. So I don't know when your ahas hit, but for today, it's AHA. We don't want you to limit it to just ice core science. It could be some AHA that you learned about ice core science today. It should be some AHA moment about your teaching. It could be some AHA moment about knowing that the oceans in the Pacific were that polluted back in the 60s. All right, so whatever your AHA moment was, that's up to you. But what we'd like you to do is put your AHA moment into your journal, and then take a picture of that journal and stick it onto the Padlet tonight. And if you want to do that right when we're done, you can do that. If you know what your AHA moment is, you can do it while I'm going through some of the other prep things. You can take care of that. If you want to wait till tonight and get it up before the workshop tomorrow, all of those are okay. Just before we start tomorrow, see if you can post your Sunday AHA up to the Padlet. As long as we're talking about Padlet, let me just talk about a couple other things. A lot of you were able to get all your pictures up there, but don't forget there's a couple of columns of Padlet things we would like. We'd like a picture of your life core. We'd like a picture of your notebook cover. And I think there was a polar opposite Venn diagram also. We'd like those posted up there. That's like our permanent record of the workshop that we have to turn into National Science Foundation. That's just how we're turning in the documentation and stuff. So. Plus, I think it's really cool to go in there and look and see everybody else's. With that said, let me stop sharing that screen. Everybody good on the Sunday AHA? All right. Let me stop sharing that. I don't even. So we're setting up here for mathematical proxies. Today, so we're going to talk about, all right, so I have two quick videos here that we're going to watch. One is just about the salt water. I think it's probably just faster to show it. It's only about a minute. So we're setting up here for mathematical proxies to develop mathematical proxy models. And it's a super simple lab setup. All you need to do is have some saturated salt water. So the best way to do this is a few days before the lab, take a gallon jug or so. And I like to use kosher salt. It seems like it makes really nice, clear salt water. But just pour a ton, and I mean a ton, into the gallon of salt water. And then cap it up, shake it. And then I would just shake it a couple times a day for a few days, because it's amazing how much dissolves in there. When you think you got it, saturated, more will dissolve. So just keep doing that. Here's an example of one that I saturated in just my peanut jar, and you can see if I hold it up, you can see all the salt that's left in the bottom. So that's what you want it to look like. You can also see in there how nice and clear the salt water is on the top, the saturated part. But you want to add enough that it's actually just sitting in the bottom like that, a lot of it sitting in the bottom. And when you go to actually use the salt water, I like to, if I'm doing ocean water model, which this one does, I like to make it blue, just tell the kids that it's ocean water, it's blue. But for this one, you're going to need just a cup of salt water, and it should be pretty clear. That's the saturated salt water. We're going to stop it there. First of all, can you guys give me a nod if you could hear the audio on that video, just to make sure? Okay. I didn't know if you were just watching me quietly working there. All right. So make sure that your salt water is really saturated. We're going to be using it tomorrow quite a bit. So if you haven't already saturated your salt water, just start dumping, and just dump a ton of salt. We probably did not send you enough to saturate, but you need like a peanut jar's worth. You don't have to do a whole gallon. In my classroom, I always have a gallon ready to go because it seems like we always need some saturated salt water. But just put a ton, and you really do need to see a lot of it on the bottom to know that it's saturated. So any other questions?
Yeah. So we're only gonna, how much do we need as our total? I think so since I'm not in my classroom needing a gallon, what volume should I make?
Like this is fine. We're gonna need like 2 cups worth. Those cups that we sent you guys, we're gonna use probably 2 of them all together.
Okay, great, thanks.
So if you have like a peanut jar like this, that's good.
I have a question. In the Padlet, there is one column which says reflection. Is that the AHA?
That's the AHA for tonight. Yep. So you
Okay.
can just take a picture of your AHA and put it in there. That'd be perfect.
We also need saturated salt water and a different activity too later on. So, you know, if you use it all, just add some more and keep it going for the workshop.
Okay. Next, I'm going to ask you guys to find your isotopic penny bag. So you got a bag from Louise that says isotopic analysis.
The one with the scale in it, like this.
So you want to get out 3 things from that bag. You have 2 bags of pennies. So one bag of pennies says old and one says new. Now, this is kind of a matter of perspective. For example, Cal made me feel old today when he told me when he graduated. But in penny terms, we're talking about old pennies are older than 1982. All right, new pennies are pennies that are newer than 1982. So the other thing that you're going to need out is all of your cups, and we're going to talk about setting up the isotopic. Oh. All right, I'm here to. All right, I'm here to show you how I like to set up the carbon dioxide direct measurement lab. It makes it pretty. I'm sorry. All right, I'm gonna just let this movie play, but before I let it play, I'm gonna ask you to look at your screen there. So when I say pre and post, pre would be, or post would be the new pennies, pre would be old pennies, pre-1982, after 1982. So if you want to get ready for the movie, what we're going to do is just set all the cups out. I'm just going to let it play and then we'll catch up at the end. But I would like you to set these up. Okay, so we're going to talk about setting up the isotopic analysis lab. You should have a bag here. And the bag actually contains old pennies and new pennies. The old pennies are labeled old. Those are all from before 1982. These are all new pennies after 1982. So we're going to just separate those 2 bags out. And you have some cups here. So we're going to take those cups and just lay them out in order. Should start with the ocean standard. And go ahead and do this. That one up there. And then we're just going to put them in order from 1 to 10. So there's cup number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and last but not least, cup number 11. All right, I'd like to start with the old pennies. So if you take your bag of old pennies, and if you get the lab handout there, it tells you how many of these need to go into each of those cups. So just with the old pennies, and the ocean standard needs 5 of them. There we go. That's 5 old pennies in the ocean standard. All the other ones have some combination. So cup number 1 needs 4. 1, 2. Cup number 2 needs 3. Please. Next one, cup number 3. Make sure we don't get this one. Needs 1 pre. That's pre-1982. Cup number 4 needs 3 pre's. Cup number 5 1 pre. Cup number 6, 3 pre's. Cup number 7 needs 1 pre. Cup number 8, 3 pre's. Cup number 9, just double checking, 1 pre. Cup number 10, 3 pre's. And cup number 11, 1 pre. Should have a couple extras. You want to keep these separate, and at the end of the day, you want to separate them again. So I'm going to put those back in the old penny bag. Old pennies. Now let's go with the new pennies. Here we go. Get a handful of new pennies. By new, we mean newer than 1982. All right, Ocean Standard is done. Cup number 1 needs 1. So when you're done, each cup should have 5 total pennies in it. 1 new one. Cup number 2 needs 2 new pennies. Cup number 3 needs 4 new pennies. Next needs 2 new pennies. Number 5 needs 4 new pennies. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 6 should have 2. Number 7 has 4. Number 8 has 2. Cup number 9 has 4. Cup number 10 has 2. And the last one has 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you should have a few extras there. Those go back in the new penny bag. Put those 2 together, you can. Just to keep them straight. And you are good to go. If you want to put caps on all of them, you can. I like to just kind of stack them all up one inside each other. So I go 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and there is the Ocean Standard. Cap that one you can, and they should be ready. Once you get them set up like that, it is about a 10-second lab setup. You might want to check also your balance. If you have a balance and you haven't taken it out yet, you will need to take out your balance. And if many of you did this ahead of time, but we are going to be using this balance tomorrow. So make sure you take it out. If you haven't put the batteries in it already, you can do that. And just make sure it works. And if your balance works, you're good to go. All right, use all that tomorrow. All right, so I will leave that up on the screen, but you do need that set up tomorrow because that setup will kill us on tomorrow's schedule if you don't have this ready to go. So tomorrow we're going to say, hey, take out your pennies, line them up on your table somewhere 1 to 11, and you just need to be able to go boom, 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 and then we're going to start to do the lab. So, and with that, I think we are done for today. Louise, anything else?
Bill, is this video available? I just lost some of the coin counts.
Yep. Yes, it is available. Lauren, are you guys recording this right now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so on the participant, Lauren, can you put a link to that video up on the participant? So
Well, we don't have it yet, but yet we will have to process the videos after we end the meeting and put it there.
But can you put up Bill's presentation?
that would be, it'd be easier to put up if she can let's wait an hour because that's going to bring up some other complications.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So,
So yes, Rose.
We'll have the video either tonight or tomorrow morning before we start. So you can check the participant agenda before we start tomorrow for the link for the videos.
And Rose, the other thing you can do is if you want to just take a picture with your phone of the screen right now. That's all the setup stuff is on there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just took your screen off and put up the glacier watching. You want me to stop and do it?
Yeah, put it up there one more time. If anybody needs to take a picture of it, they can take a picture. And
Okay, you'll need to share it again. Share your screen.
okay, so we're going to talk about setting up the isotopic analysis lab. You should have a bag here. There you go. So if you need to take a picture of the screen for the setup cups, you can.
You got to share it, Bill. We're not seeing it.
I took a screenshot and put it in the chat. I don't know if anyone can see it, but I did that back then. So if you open up the chat box, there should be the screenshot from me with the pennies and the containers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Perfect. Okay. So if somebody wants to take a screenshot real quick, and then I'm going to switch over to this amazing chasing ice.
Good.
Yep. So have any of you heard of Chasing Ice, James Blaylog's work? He's amazing. He went around all over the world for several years with a photography team and photographed glaciers and how they were changing. He does some TED Talks. He's well worth checking out. James Blaylog, B-L-A-L-O-G. This is just, hang on, let me get it shared again. It's an amazing, this is kind of the culmination of all his work. I'm just going to show you this, but you can get the entire thing on YouTube, and the link is on your agenda. The link for the 5-minute one, and also for the, I think it's over an hour, the other one.
I'm on the phone with Jim on one of our regular check-ins. Jim, nothing's happening.
Jim, it's going well. We had some serious bouts of wind, but other than that, things are fairly well set up here. We've got some.
It's starting, Adam. I think. Adam, it's starting.
Oh, wait, Jim. The big piece is starting. Yeah. Let me call you back.
Call him back. Okay, bye.
Still going?
Yeah, and that V section right there. Holy shit, look at that big bird rolling. All four right, right?
Yeah. Look at that. You see how, look at the whole thing.
calving face is 300, sometimes 400 feet tall. Pieces of ice were shooting up out of the ocean 600 feet and then falling. The only way that you can really try to put it into scale with human reference is if you imagine Manhattan. And all of a sudden, all of those buildings just start to rumble and quake and peel off and just fall over and roll around. This whole massive city just breaking apart in front of your eyes. We're just observers. These two little dots on the side of the mountain. We watched and recorded the largest witness calving event ever caught on tape.
So how big was this calving event that we just looked at? We'll resort to some illustrations again to give you a sense of scale. It's as if the entire lower tip of Manhattan broke off, except that the thickness, the height of it, is equivalent to buildings that are 2.5 or 3 times higher than they are. That's a magical, miraculous, horrible, scary thing. I don't know that anybody's really seen the miracle and horror of that. It took 100 years for it to retreat 8 miles from 1900 to 2000. From 2000 to 2010, it retreated 9 miles. So in 10 years, it retreated more than it had in the previous 100.
So
I'm in Amsterdam, which is without a doubt.
So it's an amazing thing, and his story is amazing. If you get a chance to go and watch the hour and a half long one, he has glaciers all over the world melting, and it just is telling us that the Earth is telling us a story here, and it's really important that we as teachers are getting our students to understand climate change and to understand the issues behind it, the science behind it, and thank you for being here this first day. Sorry we went a little overtime. So we will see you tomorrow. If you have any questions, Bill and I'll sit here for a little while, but you are welcome to leave and have a good afternoon, evening, whatever time zone you're in.